He is co-founder of StreetPulse, daily monitor and aggregator of music sales from independent retail stores throughout the United States, and data contributor to Rolling Stone magazine. John is also, or he is also founder of Weston Management, passionately guiding the careers of independent artists to enhance, shape, and extend their brand, providing a solid foundation for longevity in an ever-changing industry. The title of this talk is Finding the Economic Sweet Spot for Indie Artists. It's going to be discussing methods on how to financially become a full-time artist with a self-financed marketing campaign that will sustain your independence. Ready, John Weston? Inaugural Music Forum. I want y'all to give a warm welcome and a big round of applause. Give it up, y'all, for John Weston.
Noah, you're unbelievable, man. Unbelievable with those intros. You're my hero.
Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely my hero, man. Good stuff. Good tunes also. Good tunes.
Oh, thank you. Thank
The
you.
best.
Thank you
The
so
best.
much, brother. Thank you so
I'm waiting
much.
for you to go do some stand-up later this afternoon.
I don't know. I don't know if I do some stand-up, but later on, yeah, I'm going to actually be performing a bit too. So yeah, but let's get it, man. I'm excited to hear you speak, and the floor is yours, man.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Hey, some great talks so far today. I mean, Mike, unbelievable. Chris before. I mean, just some really good stuff. As Noah was mentioning, I've been been with major labels for 25 years. And did all that, and then started a company called StreetPulse, which monitors the independent music stores here in the United States on a daily basis. And if you haven't experienced any like local music store, they're growing in leaps and bounds thanks to the population of the popularity of vinyl. Vinyl is just putting these guys right back in the map again. And the cool thing is that it's really the local music culture. They have stages inside some of these stores. They do amazing shows. Just to kind of give you an idea of the business there, just to kind of before I get into the sweet spot for artists, the average unit 10 years ago being sold at these stores were around $14.50. That was the average unit. Now it's over $28 a unit. That's how huge the economy is getting for these stores. And the cool thing about the culture of these stores with the live shows and their personal touch and knowing what's happening locally, it's really, the growth is just incredible what these guys have been doing. Record Store Day is, I think, now coming around to maybe 10 years. They've been doing that, and that's now a worldwide event. They celebrated, one of the coalitions celebrated their 20th anniversary in Seattle a few years back. And one of the nights that they were celebrating, they invited all the retail store owners to have a party at the local store. And so, they had a spread there. They were hanging out, lights go down. Pearl Jam comes walking into the store, goes on stage, takes over the place, jams for about an hour, and you can look it up. It's now available. Pearl Jam at Easy Street in Seattle. I mean, just these things are happening constantly. It's very cool. So anyway, just a plug there about independent stores. You should definitely be in the loop on that, even if you want to perform there. So my talk today is about the sweet spot for artists and finding that sweet spot for revenue. I just thought this would be a good conversation to have because, I mean, the numbers are staggering of the music that's coming out now. I mean, Spotify, are you ready for this? Spotify on an average week receives over 200,000 new tracks every week. So think about that. Think about the largest venue you've ever been to, and every seat is a different artist. And then think about how much that venue holds. then think about what 200,000 really is. It's not just a number, it's huge. And guess what? After that week, they don't go away. They're still out there competing for slots that you're going after. And there's another 200,000 that comes out. And so there's a lot of artists out there. What I found coming from major labels is that there's a lot of artists that are great on the creativity side, but when they get out of the studio, they're kind of like lost. They don't have the revenue to have management. They don't have the the revenue to market themselves. They're kind of like lost. And the key is that you got to find that sweet spot. Or if you don't, you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're going to get discouraged, and then you drop out of sight. And so I figured let me talk about this today because when I left major labels and I started StreetPulse, I had no intentions of managing anyone. And a friend of mine who actually worked with me in Atlanta always used to say, "You should manage. You should manage." And I was just like, "No, I don't." And any managers on here are probably laughing right now, going, "No, you don't want to do it." And he introduced me to this artist that was a part-time waitress in New Jersey. I'm based out of New York, by the way, hence the sweater. We just got our first frost. So anyway, so met her. She was a part-time waitress in Red Lobster. She didn't go to college. She wanted to be a pop artist. My heart broke for her, and I said, "Okay, I think I can help you." And 6 months later, I had her song on the radio, and I was managing her. And 4 years after that, she made her national debut on Good Morning America, still as an independent artist. And so to me, it was like, throughout that time period, I was noticing how much of a disconnect there is from the creative side to then the marketing side and the business side. So I've now taken on a number of other different artists that I'm now managing. And the way I kind of categorize it when you're looking at your career when you're first getting started is there's one of three areas that you should really concentrate on and kind of feel it out first. If you're a writer, I would say publishing would be the first place to start to play around with, because on the publishing side, if you're writing, and especially if you're writing a lot. My one artist, she wrote and recorded over 100 songs in the first year that she was signed to Cobalt. And it's listen, they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be, because a lot of the stuff that you're handing in to publishing companies is more for licensing. And that can start turning revenue around for you without you really having to do anything more to the song. So these songs could just be hooks. They could just be beats. They could be instrumentals. They could be anything that you think might fit for either a movie, TV show, a commercial. And it's good revenue because you don't have to do anything. It's just all of a sudden, a few months later, you get an email saying, "Are you good with the price on this?" You say yes, and probably about 3 to 6 months later, money's there, and it could possibly continue if it works for this commercial, or if it works for for whatever the licensing is part of. So that would be probably the first place if you're really into writing and you have a fairly easy way to record your music, would be to start writing as much as possible and co-write with producers and writers that are published. This way, the stuff that you're doing with them will go to their publishing company or their sync company, and hopefully one or two of those will catch on, and then all of a sudden other sync companies or licensing companies or publishing companies will start getting more and more interested in you because you landed these three different types of syncs. So that's one of the places that if you're really into writing, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just really time and, home studio or a good, find a couple of good producers that you're comfortable with that'll do 50-50 splits and start going away. And I mean, my one artist, she was not published. She was starting to get to write with some published producers, and one of them was with Warner Chappell, and Warner Chappell, a morning before she showed up to write, called him and said, "Do you have anything about winter or staying warm?" And he says, "No, but I have another artist coming in today that I'll talk to about it." And they wrote this song and recorded it in one day, sent it into Warner Chappell, and 10 days later, it debuted in a McDonald's commercial on the 7th game of the World Series. And as jaded as I am after doing this for so many years, I was pretty much blown away by sitting there and watching that, because 10 days ago, that song didn't even exist. And McDonald's ran it for the entire fourth quarter of that year. So, and then publishing companies were basically coming after her at that point. So just some food for thought on the publishing side. The other side that you, depending on your music and your style of music, and whether you have comfortable being on stage with a live presence, live shows, of course, being another avenue where it's like, okay, but you're also playing that game too of, okay, I'm an artist, I sound good, I look great, everybody loves me, but I can't sell seats. So you have to start from somewhere. You could start, there's college tours, if you hook up with the right college tour companies, they can pay fairly decent. That'll pay your way, and you just got to strip everything down to mostly just maybe solo or a company with someone that pays fairly good. I mean, you're not going to get rich, but at least it's more exposure. You're building a following, and you have some revenue coming in. There's also a company called So Far that started in London in a loft where it was a bunch of guys that just invited friends over and started having some artists perform. And it evolved into, they started to charge people at the door to come in because it was just turning out to be such a great thing. And now they're in, I think, about 150 different cities throughout the world. And they look for unique places that are just pop-up shows where you can buy, a ticket for, I think it's $20, $15 or $20, and see 3 artists perform half-hour sets. The artist gets paid, I think, either $100 or $150. And, you can do this locally, and they guarantee 75 people or more in the venue. And I mean, I've seen some of my artists have played in libraries, in French bakeries after they've closed, on boats, that are kind of like slash restaurants, and just very, very cool settings where people are really into music and finding new artists. I mean, but they've also had major artists play shows, some shows, like all of a sudden Ed Sheeran would show up and just try a couple of new tunes. So it's another place to build your following on the live side. And then there's also a real niche that one of my artists has revenue coming in from, and that's private events. The bigger private events are here in the States, as far as New York and Los Angeles, some in Chicago, but for the most part, it's a small niche, but it pays really well because these special events or private events, I should say, could be corporate, but there's a lot of money in there to be had if you have the right set and fit the vibe that they're trying to come across. So anyway, and it's just another way of just building a following on your socials, so that you can finally get a broker that can then sell you. And the average broker in the introduction level, as far as coming in, usually they're looking for you to be able to fill about 150 to 200 seats nationally in any city. So it's a large jump when you can maybe just do one market to be able to start to do other markets. But if you can do So Far and start doing multiple different cities. I had a So Far tour that I booked of about 16 different cities throughout the United States. Set it all up. The pandemic hit and it didn't happen, but they're back now, and you can do that to build a following in each one of the cities. So anyway, and then the third place, of course, is music streaming and sales. But to go after that, I usually find that as the final reward. That will start coming in. If you get your publishing in line, you get exposure through there. You get exposure through your live shows, and just exposure through all the different outlets out there, whether it's playlists or satellite radio or a terrestrial radio or a good publicist that'll start getting you reviews, music blogs, things like that, to just draw people, build your following. And then your sales will just naturally come in. I have not, and if there's anyone on here who has found a formula to go out and be able to stream music and get enough revenue in that will pay for the marketing efforts behind streaming, and it's all legit. If anyone has come up with that formula, please, please raise your hand right now, because I have not seen anything that works. It's usually more of a lost cause and more of marketing, really a marketing campaign than really is to build a revenue stream. So anyway, those are the three, but eventually, really, as an independent artist, you want to stay as independent as possible, because the major labels, once you're in that machine, it's then you got to become a priority. There's got to be somebody in there that's constantly banging the drum for you. And then if you do become your priority, you can, in the middle of a week, they all of a sudden just go, nope, you're no longer the priority, and you're gone. You're gone, and then you're back on your own again. So it's really more important about staying as independent. But on the other side, with major labels, there's no one who can market an artist internationally better than major labels. They're a machine. They're great at it once you're actually part of that machine. But you have to be right up there. I mean, what Columbia is doing with the Adele, album right now is just, I mean, it's a work of beauty. It really is. I mean, you can't be alive right now and not know that there's a new Adele album coming out in another couple of weeks. So anyway, but that's really, a way to find your sweet spot is just, you have to go to one of those areas and find it. And once it starts naturally happening, then you can start building in all your other areas. Noah, how am I doing on time?
You're doing good. I think you still have another 12 minutes, but we could also do Q&A. So, if you still have a few more things to say, or
So anyway, but the reason also why I have this topic in here is because of the music forum for the token economy. That is really going to empower the independent artist, where basically, I think it's really educating the public about what this is all about, and the technology behind it. But it's basically, the way I see it as that, I mean, you can be able to sell so many different entities that you can't now. So you can actually you don't have to have millions of followers. You could have 5,000-10,000 followers that just absolutely adore you, and they can buy a token to either your brand, or if you are also an artist that you can draw, you can start selling different entities, and they can buy a piece of you. And it's kind of like, it's like buying a stock in something that they're very, very passionate about. So right now, the only way they can really, without the token economy, the only way they can be part of that passion is either buy a concert ticket or stream your music. That's the only way they can bring in anything that might bring any kind of revenue to you. Where the token economy will just completely open up the gates for those passionate fan base that you have, and so that's why that fan base is that's your gold. That's absolutely gold for you. That's the one thing people cannot take away from you, no matter what contract you sign, is your fan base. So that's why it's really key to just keep on focusing in. And I'm telling you, another year from now, I think we're going to be way beyond where we are right now in the token economy on the music side. So anyway, that's my piece, because right now the major labels, they are not going to sign you unless your TikTok numbers are out of control. And to me, it's just, TikTok is great. It's incredible. It's so entertaining. I love it. But at the same time, it's trendy. I mean, there's nothing more trendy than TikTok. And here they are. They're actually buying into a trend that, that within 1 week it can explode, and in another week it can completely fall off. And I think it's very, very short term, but they're always in the mindset of how can we make money today? So that's where it falls in, and that's where it's like, but the long term is horrible. And every artist that I work with, it's always like it's the long term goal. It's the build of constantly building, that fan base that's passionate about your music and you as an artist. So anyway, that's I think we could probably open it up to questions. Noah?
All right, guys, let's open up the floor to questions. Anybody have any questions? I have a question. So I know you've worked with a lot of different artists, and you know definitely a veteran in the game that's accomplished a lot. So what are some of the characteristics or criteria that you look for, like in artists, in to maybe work with them or etc.?
The first thing that I usually look for, well, the first thing is that I'll always make sure that they're writing, that they can write. That's so key that they're writing it, because basically then they're in control of their own destiny. I only do solo artists just because bands are just like, my head just explodes just because you're dealing with so many different entities. I mean, one of my artists, she has a band, but she heads up everything. She writes all the music, she does everything, and she has like an interchangeable band where, if they're on tour with, John Legend or Usher or whatever, she'll then flip in and bring somebody else in. So it's not really a band, it's still her as a solo artist, but she has musicians that work with her. So that's really the first thing I look for. The second thing is, I mean, for me personally, I always have a sweet spot for like just kind of like a rhythmic pop, something that's just like got like that will last throughout the years. It's one thing that I definitely learned while I was at Atlantic, and Ahmet Ertegun, who basically brought, I think, music pop culture in the late 60s and 70s, and he always used to say, but will people be listening to this song 10 years from now? And it's a key, especially in the streaming world, because man, you want to just keep that revenue going. If your streams are big, it's just and people love your music. I mean, how many times do you kind of like, get a little bit bored with maybe what's happening currently? All of a sudden, what do? You go back to some of the classic stuff that, you grew up with, or in a time period that you absolutely loved when it came to music. And that's where you want to go. So those are really the two things that I always look for.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone in the audience? Big shout outs, of course. Joe Rotondi, Mike Lane still here, Daniel June, Michael Williams, Tino, Katia, Shelton, Anthony, Myra, Annie, Quentin, Adrian, and Leroy. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a comment. One of the things that John's great at, I've known John for way too long, and he's actually in different aspects of his business. He's one of my clients in a way, but we're kind of co-mentors. We mentor each other. And one of the things that John does great is that that's good that he likes the pop rhythmic artists, because he's found that focusing on bigger like pipelines, like the Sirius XM and the big stations, he can just go to a handful of them and get more punch than trying to get all the state radio stations across the country and all the internet, little internet platforms to play his song. And that includes getting publishing money and getting exposure for his artists. And he's got those connections, and he knows, and he works it really well. That's his little secret sauce. But the key that I want to take away, there goes the secret. But the thing is that you have the connections. That's the thing, is that not everybody has those connections. And the thing is, though, the point was that sometimes people try to go too wide with an audience instead of going for a niche and working that and having a solid fan base. Like I said, you can get 5,000 fans or 2,500 fans or even 1,500 fans, and you can have a great living as an artist, better than, you know, your guy that's managing an insurance company lives next door to you or whatever. So that's something that he's done well, is just zoom in on things that count as opposed to trying to be everywhere, because it's just too expensive, number one, right? And it's not effective at the end of the day. He gets more exposure just by focusing and going for the bigger one. So I believe that's where I'm speaking correctly, right, John?
Yes. Mike, did you see my question that I threw at you?
No.
My question was, when's John Weston going to talk?
Oh yeah, I put
Anyway, yeah, I mean, you have to keep on searching for those places that can give you huge exposure. So instead of, going after, small playlists or that's really not going to make any difference, or reviews that really don't have that much following, it's just, you got to go for the bigger ones that are, that musically it hits their sweet spot and they're open to it. And and sometimes you lose one, but you find another one somewhere else. So that's just the game. And so anyway, and I just think it's really important that artists, you got to be patient. And if you keep on seeing growth, you're in the right spot. You just got to keep on working it. If you don't see growth, then don't spin your wheels, move on. But you got to be patient and see if it's really going to work or not.
Okay, great. So how do let's say artists, Arlene, anybody here in the forum reach you, or is there
I don't have a website. I don't.
Email,
it's just word of mouth, man.
Telegram,
it's just word of mouth. But okay. No, but my email is up on the forum. So if you can reach out that way, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm really the guy behind the scenes. That's
all
me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a question, Anthony Bashi. How can artists communicate to their current audience that they are seeking new sounds to play with?
I'm finding the best avenue for that is on TikTok, where you can kind of experiment and say, hey, I'm working on this song today. What do you think? I mean, the amount of eyeballs on TikTok is it's mind boggling. I mean, so I'm finding that's probably the best platform to just casually just go on and say, hey, I'm trying something new. What do you think? And go with it. And then take all your other socials and just say, hey, I just posted something up on TikTok you should check out.
Okay, great.
Is that what you were asking for, Anthony? Is that?
Yeah, that's spot on. Thank you.
Yeah.
We got a few more questions, guys, but about a minute, 2 minutes left. So first one, let's do quick fire. Who's your favorite solo artist? John.
Danielle Giray.
Danielle Giray. Okay. And then it goes, John, aside from being one of the best managers in the world, this is from Danielle Giray.
I was talking to Danielle right before I went on, and she said, oh, please send me the link. So I did, and there she is.
What makes you excited about a song, and what do you think creates artist longevity?
Again, artist longevity, it's everything you got to be focusing on long term, and it's got to go back to will people be listening to this song 10 years from now? That's really the roots of it. What was that other question?
And what makes you excited?
I mean, it's so funny. You just never know. I mean, some artists, they'll send me stuff that they'll think that I won't like, and I'm like all over it. And there's times where they'll send it to me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. I'm kind of lost. So that one, you got me. It's just like sometimes it just hits that. But usually, I mean, if I'm looking for something that is going to be, a potential hit. What I will do is listen to it once, put it away, go back to it the next day, and see if I remember the hook or not.
Okay.
If it sounds familiar, yeah, that's usually my test. Another secret I'm giving out, Mike. You're killing me today, huh?
Giving out all his secrets.
Giving out all my secrets, man.
Secrets. And Danielle says, I didn't pay him to say that. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, John.
Right.
And
all right, Mellow man, you're the greatest. Thank you, sir.
You too, brother. So round of applause. Expect a message from me on Telegram.